Good evening. Welcome to the Crawley Borough Council's Planning Committee meeting. I'm Councillor Pritchard, Chair of the committee. There are no scheduled fire drills tonight, so in the event of a fire alarm, please leave the building via the spiral staircase and the main entrance. Once outside, turn left and go to the fire assembly point on Exchange Road. If you're unable to use the stairs, you will be guided by a member of staff to the evacuation lift. Due to technical issues, this meeting is not being live streamed, but is being recorded and will be uploaded to the Council's YouTube page. Please note that the Council is a data controller under the Data Protection Act. Data collected during the recording will be retained in accordance with the Council's published retention policy. Anyone seated in the public gallery should be aware that they may be filmed by the automated camera system and their image may be captured. Therefore, by entering the meeting room, you are consenting to being filmed and to the possible use of those images and sound recordings for webcasting or training purposes. Councillors are asked to take note of what is displayed on the screens in the room as they show what is being recorded. Please request to speak as usual by raising your hand. When I call upon you to speak, please press the button on the microphone with a face on it and it will light up green when you are live. The meeting agenda is available on the Council's website. Around these tables sit the committee members who will be taking decisions on the items before them. Officers of the Council are also in attendance and I will invite them to introduce themselves now, starting with the gentleman on my right.
Good evening, Siraj Chowdhury, Head of Governance, People and Performance.
Thank you, Heather Girling, Democratic Services Officer.
Good evening, Clem Smith, Head of Economy and Planning.
Good evening, Hamish Walk, Acting Group Manager for Development Management.
Good evening, Alex Sanders, Acting Principal Planning Officer.
Okay, on to agenda item 1. Are there any apologies? No. I'm going to take items 2 and 3 together. I will call upon committee members to declare any interests or lobbying. Please also declare if you've visited any of the sites. Councillor Ali.
Thank you, Chair. I don't have any interest to declare. I haven't been lobbied. And I have visited both agenda item 5 and agenda item 6 sites.
Councillor Bounds.
Thank you, Chair. I have no lobbying or declarations to disclose and I have visited neither site.
Councillor Cheriton.
I have no special interest to disclose. I have not been lobbied. I have visited both sites of agenda item 5 and 6.
Councillor Jaggard.
Good evening. I've no disclosures of interest. I have not been lobbied, but I have visited site 5 and 6.
Councillor Kieran Khan.
Good evening, everyone. I don't have any personal interest to declare. I haven't been lobbied on anything. And in terms of item 5, I have visited the college on a personal capacity, but not to do with this application. Thanks.
Councillor Yasmin Khan.
Thank you, Chair. I've no interest to declare and I've not visited any sites and I've not been lobbied. Thank you.
Councillor Mullins.
Good evening. I have no interest to declare. I haven't been lobbied. Item 5, I know the college fairly well, but I have not visited on this occasion for this particular issue.
Councillor Magali.
Good evening. I have no interest to declare. I have not been lobbied. I have visited item 5 on a separate occasion and have not visited item 6. Thank you.
Councillor Nawaz.
Thanks, Chair. I have no personal interest to declare. I have been lobbied on both applications and I have visited the site, but also want to declare as a board member for Manor Royal Bid and Town Centre Bid, I share the board with the both representative of this application in some capacity.
Which application is that?
Application number 5 for the college and also for the Elector building. 5 and 6 both.
Thank you, Councillor Nawaz. And for myself, I have not been lobbied, I have no interests, and I have visited the site of item number 5. Now we come to the minutes of the last meeting held on the 2nd of April 2024. Does the committee agree that the minutes are an accurate record of the meeting? Okay, we will now move on to agenda item 5, CR 2023-0734 FUL, Crawley College, College Road, Three Bridges. Can I ask the officer to present the report?
Thank you, Chair. This planning application relates to Crawley College, which is for the construction of a new Institute of Technology building. There is an update following final comments received from West Sussex County Council in their capacity as the lead local flood authority, as well as final comments from Water Environment regarding water neutrality. This has resulted in 3 additional conditions which will be discussed further at the end of this presentation. The decision is as per the recommendation, but requests delegated authority to change condition 4 from a pre-commencement condition to an implementation condition following agreement from consultees that the surface water management plan and method statement is acceptable. I've noticed 2 very minor errors in the report, just to draw your attention to. 5.33, it should be 7 replacements, not 9. And paragraph 5.46, the rainwater harvesting will be used for flushing the WCs in the new building and not to be discharged into the main surface water system. Crawley College is located...
We've lost the screens.
Oh.
There you go.
There we go.
No, don't move.
Crawley College is located in the centre of Crawley, with College Road running along the western boundary of the site. To the south is Hazlitt Avenue East. To the east of the site is a cycleway which takes you up to Northgate Avenue to the north of the site. The application site occupies the southern part of the Crawley College campus, which forms the existing car park accommodating 209 vehicles. To the north are a group of recently TPO'd oak trees, with that beyond is the ATC and STEM buildings. To the east, as mentioned, there is a tree belt and a cycleway. The tree belt is also structured landscaping, and there are residential properties beyond in Elmcroft Court. To the south is the entrance to the college site, and to the west are the 2 Longley buildings. The proposed Institute of Technology building would be positioned on part of this existing car park. This would be a 4-storey building which would measure a width of 25 metres, a length of 33 metres, with a maximum height of 19.8 metres. The building would have a flat roof design covering almost 2,700 square metres. The proposal would also involve upgrading and slightly moving the pedestrian and vehicle entrance to the south of the site. There would be a dedicated crossing which would take you to the entrance of the new building, around the building, joining up with the rest of the site to the northwest. There's small areas of landscaping throughout the site, and there's also a new substation in the corner next to the entrance. The proposal would result in an increase in pupil numbers by 644 with an additional 50 staff. The layout would be simple and functional. On the ground floor, would have the entrance into a central lobby and reception area. There would be a cafe and social breakout space. There would be an engineering workshop, a construction hub, and an external yard. Centrally, there is a shared stairwell and lifts and WCs. The first floor would have teaching spaces as well as staff spaces, WCs, and the remaining floor plans are quite similar. In terms of the elevations, the building would have a box-like appearance with detailing on the south elevation, sorry, that's the west, detailing on the south elevation, and on the west elevation. This shows the eastern elevation facing onto the properties in Elmcroft Court. I'll go back to the west, which is easier to see. There would be metallic cladding around the building with ambered coloured fin detailing, which is carried through onto the signage display here. There would be a concrete panelling around this the amber fins. There would be double height glazing, recessed glazing at the floors above, which would be enclosed by grey casements. There's also a feature overhang on the ground floor above the entrance. It's pretty easier to see on the CGI images, which gives you a feel for the palette of materials. So you can see clearly the amber fins here encased in the concrete and the recessed grey window frames and the metallic building. So this is a photo facing east with College Road behind me. This is the recently TPO'd oak tree, and the Institute of Technology building would be in the gap next to it here. And this photo shows the other TPO trees that were in the group. This is part of the site facing north, and then again facing east towards Elmcroft Court and looking south towards the entrance of the site. This is looking back on yourself the other way, so from Hazlitt Avenue East facing towards the site. And then this is from the entrance, again with the properties and the structural landscaping. And this shows the Longleys building. This is from the roundabout with Three Bridges Road, so the new building would be set behind these trees in the distance here. And then this is from College Road, and again the building would be in this gap here behind the large oak tree. So turning to the specific considerations of the application. In principle, the site is in a highly sustainable town centre location close to shops, railways, bus stations and car parks. It's supported by policy IM5, which supports new and improved infrastructure, including education. It will create jobs and college places supporting the wider economic function of Crawley in line with policies EC1 and EC2. Policy TEC3 of the draft local plan identifies the whole college site for mixed-use development with priority for education. In terms of scale and design, this has been amended to improve the appearance of the building in terms of the treatment on the south elevation. Further articulation was required, as well as integrating this construction hub within the building, which now the brick plinth continues around the entirety of the building, which anchors the building. The building has also moved from away from the tree, so it's shifted 2 metres to the south to avoid impacts on the now protected trees. It's considered that positioning and scale is suitable for the site and can be comfortably accommodated here. It's in line with the Crawley College master plan for the wider aspirations of the site, and vistas will still be afforded across the site, which is a key consideration in the master plan. Care has been taken to ensure that whilst there is some encroachment, there will still be vistas through the site. In terms of highways, there are currently 209 parking spaces on the actual application site, but the wider college site there are 288. The proposal would result in the loss of 87 spaces, with 122 remaining on the application site and 201 remaining on the wider site. Whilst this doesn't meet the parking standards per se, it can meet the predicted demand required on site at any one time, and as previously mentioned, it's a highly sustainable location. In terms of the trees, as mentioned, the building has been moved away from these now protected oak trees, and as I said, we did get the trees protected as part of this application. There are 7 small category C trees which are to be removed and 7 replanted, and that will be secured by condition. And these changes, combined with the proposed conditions, would ensure that there will be no adverse impact on the trees. In terms of the impact on amenity, There's a distance of 27 metres from this elevation to the elevation on Elmcroft Court here, and 30 metres from this elevation to this property here. Quite a lot of these properties facing on are secondary windows, and the distance combined with the tall tree screening, I'll just get the photo back up just to show you, here shows that whilst you will see part of the building, this is a very tall screen here. In terms of water neutrality, I'll get back to the site plan. The proposal would be water neutral. We are waiting for comments from Natural England, but the appropriate assessment is with them now. The proposed water neutrality measures include low fittings in the proposed building, rainwater harvesting for toilet flushing in the proposed building, retrofitting flow fittings in the Longley building, no ongoing watering of landscaped areas once established, restrictions on the use of the building to education only, and restrictions on the use of the cafe so that no food preparation or dishwashing facilities can be installed. In terms of other matters, such as contamination, ecology, sustainability and aviation safety, these are addressed further in my report. As I mentioned, there is an update, which I will just bring up. So we were waiting for final comments from the lead local flood authority, which we have now received, and they raised no objection to the proposal. They have requested an additional condition requiring the submission of a sustainable urban drainage maintenance and management plan, and this is reflected in the updated condition 26 on the screen. In terms of water neutrality, there was an outstanding matter regarding providing sufficient watering to the landscaped areas. It's been confirmed that no long-term irrigation would be required. However, the landscaping areas would need water initially to secure establishment. It's proposed to offset this against the water savings made within the Longley building as a result of retrofitting the water-saving taps. Water Environment have provided their final comments and consider the proposal would be water neutral. They have requested a further condition shown here at 27 for the submission of a landscape management and maintenance plan, and condition 28, which is to ensure that there will be no external water use. In terms of the cycleway improvements, there is an update in that regard in terms of contributions to the improved cycleway to the east of the site. And West Sussex have advised it's unlikely they would want to take contributions towards these very specific improvements, and they're not required to make the proposal acceptable. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. There are 3 speakers registered in regard to this item. Please would Gordon Easton come to the front. If you take a seat there, the microphone in front of you has a picture of a person. Press the button and you'll be able to speak. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Hello, thank you for the opportunity to address the committee. I speak as always on behalf of Active Travel Crawley. By way of introduction, of course, more journeys by active travel results in pleasanter and quieter environment, reduced noise, air pollution, improved health, less carbon emissions and more space on our roads. So yes, I'm objecting, but we are very supportive overall for this facility within the town centre, within easy reach of the train stations, buses, etc. As we've heard, the application will increase the number of people on site. So by, I think in the report it says 130 additional staff, 644 students, whilst reducing car parking by 87, which is all good, but it's critical that the measures to support active travel are got right. Let's say overall, I'm very supportive of a lot of it. I'm not going to go through what we support because we don't need to say that. We did object to 3 points. 2 of those have already been addressed in the report. I'll quickly go through them. First of all, there was the timing of the construction of the cycle storage that originally was like, it may happen, whatever. We now have a condition in there that it'll be there before first use, so that's great. Similarly, there's S106 funding to support monitoring of the travel plan, which of course is essential to make sure that the site is used. The third point that hasn't been addressed, in the southeast corner of the site, then you have the roundabout, which is quite hostile to walkers, wheelers, people with buggies, wheelchairs, whatever, getting across that roundabout. And of course, not only this on the north side, but on the south side, we've got the Telford Place additional usage coming in there. So that, there's undoubtedly going to be a need for more active travel things, walkers and wheelers going across that. It's not for me to say what needs to change or design or anything like that, but there clearly is going to be something. I would, whilst we're completely supportive of the development, I would urge the committee to put some kind of condition or whatever to say that there should be some kind of legal agreement for S106 or whatever contribution to that, because obviously it's not just this development, it's the development the other side and all that kind of thing, but there's undoubtedly going to be additional use that needs to be done. That's all I have to say.
Okay, you came in perfectly on 3 minutes there. Thank you very much. If I could ask John Cuban to come up to the microphone, please. Again, if you press the button on the microphone, it will turn green, and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Good evening, Chair, Planning Committee members and officers. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is John Cuban. I'm a member of Three Bridges Forum, and I still hold an appointment by Crawley Borough Council as a volunteer tree warden. I wrote in support of the proposed Institute of Technology building if its originally submitted footprint and location could be altered to show a more sympathetic and much improved relationship to a senior neighbour, a valuable old oak tree still in possession of a potentially longer design life than that of a modern building. I'm gratified that the scheme has been changed to accommodate the tree by moving the building 2 metres further away, together with other safeguarding measures in line with British Standard BS 5837 recommendations for trees in relation to construction. Trees are a material planning consideration, and BS 5837 is the document that tells local planning authorities how to consider them, in this case by bringing about a more favourable design option in recognition of the importance of existing mature tree cover in relation to new development proposals so close to the town centre, unlike the situation at Telford Place only 200 metres to the south, where unfortunately an equally important oak tree remains under threat. Thank you for your attention, and I'm sure that on this occasion a resolution to delegate the decision to permit the present application for the Institute of Technology will be the right one.
Thank you very much. And our third and final speaker, Paul Rolfe. Again, as I've just explained, press the button on the microphone, it will light up, and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Paul Rolfe. I'm the Associate Principal at Chichester College Group, which includes Crawley College. I'm also proud to be Chair of the Crawley Town Centre bid. We have a long-term commitment to Crawley College and have made significant investment in the site. We have achieved Ofsted Outstanding and TEF Silver for the quality of our education, and we also have strengthened relationships with the council, schools, local employers and community organisations. In 2019, we were pleased to obtain planning permission for our new STEM centre. It now provides a range of engineering, digital and maths qualifications. The STEM Centre project demonstrated our unwavering commitment to the site and, more importantly, the people of Crawley. We are also delighted that a site master plan was approved by the Council in 2022, enabling us to have an exciting ambition to build state-of-the-art educational facilities. We are also working hard on our next phase of a wider programme to further improve our educational provision on the site and hope to bring this back to you later in the year. Crawley College leads on the Institute of Technology, which includes the Universities of Sussex and Brighton. Our employer partners include Gatwick Airport, Waits Construction and Roche Diagnostics. Chichester University is currently also going through the legal process to join our consortium, and the project is funded by the Department for Education. The IoT will bring a range of major benefits. It will boost educational participation amongst residents at level 4 and above. It will deliver a responsive, employer-led curriculum in digital, engineering, manufacturing, as well as advanced construction. It will house a green construction hub funded by the Crawley Towns Fund. It will bring 3 universities to the town where currently there are none. It will tackle social mobility challenges and the need to widen participation in HE, particularly focusing on underrepresented groups. It will also support local business growth and improvements in productivity by providing a pipeline of talent that we critically need. I hope you agree that the IoT is a significant, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity supported by business, further education and higher education to bring transformational opportunities to the people and businesses of Crawley. This IoT, along with the STEM Centre, will secure sustainable futures for the college, ensuring it meets the anticipates the needs of learners and employers.
I'm going to have to call you to a stop there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We will now move on to the debate. Committee members wishing to speak should raise their hand and the officer will respond to queries one by one. Councillor Magali.
Just a quick one. Did I hear that there won't be any dishwashers in the cafe?
Yes, it's pre-packaged food and disposable cups, so they won't actually be preparing anything on site. It will all be delivered in and thrown away, so there won't be any dishwashers, and that's part of the water neutrality measures.
Councillor Jaggard.
Thank you. I've got quite a number, as usual. Firstly, I note in the report that it potentially is going to be connected to phase 2 of the district heat network, but that is a long way off. So, there are no solar panels, are there? Are there? Which, maybe we should have as an interim type of thing. That was the first one. The second one, I am very concerned about the loss of parking, and I know active travel is really important and everything, but we've got 644 more students potentially. Now, I drove around the car park and had a good look at the spaces that were available yesterday afternoon, and there were no spaces available yesterday afternoon. That is, the car park was full with the current number of students and staff there. So I do have quite a lot of concern about the reduction in the parking. And my last point at the moment is the urban design supplementary planning document says that a 3-storey and above building should be at least 30 metres away. Now, the dwellings to the east are going to be quite overshadowed, I would have thought, at 27 metres away. And that is against our supplementary planning document. And I wondered what you had to say on that matter. Thank you.
Thank you. There are solar panels proposed, and there's a condition in the report. I can't get my hand on it right now, but there is a condition for those details to be finalised before they're implemented, so there isn't a Gatwick safeguarding issue. But yes, there will be solar panels on the roof. In terms of the loss of parking, currently students are allowed to park at the college, And the plan with the travel plan is that students will not be allowed to park at the college any longer. So I think they're only going to give very limited student permits out to those that really need it. So it's mostly going to be for staff parking. So that will help to alleviate some of the pressures and force the students to find other means of travel. And obviously that's going to be included in the travel plan. And with that in mind, the transport statement said that the predicted numbers on site at any one time, it can be met on site with the proposed development and then the remaining spaces on the wider campus. That answers that question. And then in terms of the neighbouring impact, let me try and get the photo up for you. That one. Yeah, that one's probably a bit better. So yes, you're absolutely right in what it says in the urban design guidance, but these properties are on the side, and the windows that are within the 27 metres, they're all secondary windows. So the main windows face of the front and the back either side, plus there's obviously, as you can see, the buildings are seriously dwarfed by the huge trees that are already there. So yes, whilst it is less, because it's on a side angle, it's not a back-to-back distance, and they're secondary windows and the landscaping buffer, it's considered acceptable in this instance.
Is that all, Councillor Jaggard, for now? For the moment, that's fine. Councillor Kieran Khan.
Yes, having read the application beforehand and then having seen it on screen. I mean, when it comes to education, I'm always very open to education. Education is one of my favourite parts of policy, and it's what actually drew me into politics all those years ago. And I feel like this would be a very good opportunity for, you know, over 600 more students to come and to study in Crawley and to get qualifications to move on in life. There are obviously some concerns I have, which is just the nature of every application that gets brought to us. The loss of parking is the first point I was going to raise as well, and I would like the officers to go into a bit more detail about how the permits will be drawn out when it comes to student parking. I know that students will not be allowed to park on site apart from some exceptional circumstances, so some more details on the permits would be very good. I don't have any concerns. With water neutrality, which is obviously a massive thing. Yeah, that's what I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you. In terms of the student parking permits, I don't have sort of specific details in terms of how they will issue them, other than it will be in exceptional circumstances, so whether they've got disabilities or they have to be on site for a particular reason. That would be more of a sort of college management issue. But yes, they will have to have a very good reason in order to get these permits, but I don't have the finer details of how they will actually, what they will use to allocate them.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Chariton and Councillor Kieran Khan, can you turn your mic off?
Yeah.
Hi. I was initially a little bit concerned about the parking. I still am. I was a little uneasy about any reduction, but then I suppose you've got to get it into perspective that we're talking about 87 students. And, you know, in a college of over 1,000 or 1,200 students, it's a small number of students. It's unfortunate. Hopefully, they will switch to the alternative travel means. We can only hope so. My question, though, is about the gentleman who's talking about sustainable travel. It may well be out of the scope, because I know that anything to do with roads is how can you say, tardy West Sussex, who may be quite reluctant to do anything about as the gentleman suggests, about the roundabout. Now, I know some alterations have been made on the I guess the westerly side. But I think the gentleman is legitimate in his concerns about access, because we're talking about increasing people sustainable travel to the college. I think it's quite a legitimate, quite a valid suggestion, and I'm very much in support of the college, by the way. But it is a legitimate and valid concern that we should ensure that there is, if you like, safe and convenient means to get to the college if you're not going to get to the college by car. Is what, if anything, could be done to facilitate that?
I'll start, and I think Hamish will follow it up because he knows a bit about this too. So we are fully supportive of active travel Crawley and for the improvements to the crossing, but we don't currently have the mechanisms in place to deliver it. I asked West Sussex and they said it was down to us, so we would need to get the funds in order to do it, but we just don't have the procedures in place at the moment. That being said, there are ongoing discussions internally in terms of how we can put this in place, working with Active Travel Crawley and the Active Travel Officer at now West Sussex, which is a recent post. So I think going forwards, we will be able to do this, and there is a master plan for this site and there is another phase to this development. And hopefully by the time that comes in, we would be able to do that. But yes, I take your point in terms of now, but could you follow up?
Yeah, just to kind of follow up on that, I think historically West Sussex highways have tended to focus on contributions for particularly large developments where the traffic associated with that has generated a specific need for a roundabout improvement or traffic lights or something like that, generally vehicle related. They have got a new active travel officer who's only been in post for a month or so, I think, but has had a meeting with Mr. Easton and Peter Smith with Active Travel Crawley and with officers in our team. So it is kind of, it's a work in progress. We've got the new local plan has an annex in it which will seek contributions towards sustainable transport, and that will help to address this. But unfortunately, I think this is just a little bit too early. We are starting to implement the policies in the new local plan, but we haven't yet got ourselves into a position where the contributions in that annex can be applied. But I think we want to continue working closely with Active Travel Crawley and the officer at West Sussex to bring that in as quickly as we can. And you may well find even in the next couple of months that applications come before you where we are seeking contributions. But unfortunately, I think for this one, it's just a little bit too early in that process.
Thank you. Is that enough? Yeah. Sorry, Councillor Nawaz.
Thanks, Chair. I think it's really good to see this scheme is coming forward, and which is great for our town and obviously for town centre as well, and the youngsters who can learn state-of-the-art technologies at the Institute of Technology. I think I understand from the car parking side, I've done my numbers as well on there. So in terms of standards for higher education, so yes, we're losing car parking spaces, but at the same time, given that we're in the town centre and the transport network or infrastructure around the town is reasonably quite well. And I do understand from other schemes like Station Gateway scheme is in pipeline as well, which is going to improve some of the pedestrian and cycling improvements on the station side anyway. But my late concern is, I think one of the speakers mentioned about the Telford Place coming forward, which is quite a big development, about 300 houses, and when that congestion on that side we're going to be piled up, I do think there is a value in there, so we consider that as a wider scheme. How can we improve the cycling improvement on that side of things when the Telford Place come forward as well? So is there any condition we can work with or something with the developers of Telford Place and the college to improve the cycle access on that side when the congestion will be quite high on the other side?
To sort of respond, I guess, fairly generally, the Telford Place scheme will look to improve the junction to the south of the roundabout. So it does look to link in footpaths and cycleways across the east-west section of what is currently Telford Place will become pedestrianised and a cycle route, and that will then link up to the roundabout. But I think you're quite right, and as Mr. Eason said, the roundabout and the bit of Hazlitt Avenue East between the roundabout and College Road is quite difficult to cross, and it's also not a road that you would particularly want to cycle along, I don't think. So there is scope for improvements along there, and that might well be something that we look to encourage. Now, if members want to go back to the college and try to seek a contribution, I think you could reasonably do that. That is the kind of thing that is set out in the new local plan. As I said, I think in response to Councillor Chariton, it's quite early days for us, and we are only beginning to discuss with Active Travel Crawley and with West Sussex how to implement this. But obviously this is your decision. This is, we've made a recommendation. If you think that issue is more important and that further improvement needs to happen to that junction, then we could go back to the college. But I think our view is it's probably a bit early in terms of policy to do that. So I think I'd have to leave it to members to discuss.
Can I supplement? Obviously, one is a recommendation, but as you said, local plan is at an early stage and obviously will be adopted if it's gone through the full council soon. If that goes through, then we're in a better position to discuss that. But if recommendation or maybe a noting, I don't know how it works, to work with the college to come to a conclusion to help that. Is that something you can do as well?
Well, I think if you're looking to secure a contribution, you really need to make that clear tonight so that we can take that back to the college. Now, you may want to delegate it to officers to try to negotiate a contribution. In terms of the local plan, we are applying local plan policies. I think the problem is because it's a lengthy document and there are quite a lot of changes, it takes development management officers a while to kind of get to grips with them all and start implementing them fully. And the sustainable transport contribution mechanism is set out in an annex. I think most officers haven't got that far through. We're still but we are bringing in other policies, as you see from our reports. We are now referring to the policies and seeking to implement them and pushing things along. So I think over the next, it's a slightly gradual process. We'll do it as quickly as we can, but I think if members feel in this case there is a particularly important need, and I could understand that because I think that part of Hazlitt Avenue East is not ideal. Then we could take it back to the college, but it's not something that's been raised with them yet.
The proposal on this application is to delegate the decision to the Head of Economy and Planning, so we can make recommendation to the Head of Economy and Planning as to what we would like to see before he gives such approval. Councillor Nawaz.
Thank you. I think, I understand that, and obviously, I believe, even though I know it's Head of Planning, but looking into it, but maybe there is some responsibility on Telford as well, because obviously that is Telford Place is already looking into it, improve that, but now this development, because they are bigger development as well. So there may be some. Is there any way we can talk to them while in that process to have something towards education side transport? Just asking the question.
We couldn't ask Telford Place to contribute to the education side, really. I think they've done what they can within Telford Place and looking at that kind of pedestrianised and landscape strip across the northern side of their development and the links into the roundabout. Certainly, if we were going to do anything to roundabout, it would be sensible to coordinate it with anything that the college were able to contribute to as well. Even a crossing on that side of the roundabout would be a start to get from the Telford Place development across to the college, because there isn't even a crossing there. You have to go to the College Road end to get across. Having said that, the access into the college from College Road is actually quite good. There's a cycle lane there, there's footpaths there. So on that side, I think the college has quite good access, and there is obviously a gate through there. So it's really the Three Bridges Road, Hazlitt Avenue East side that's more of a problem. But I don't think we could expect Telford Place to contribute more, because that application has already been before you and has been agreed.
Okay, I'm going to carry on with other committee members, and then we'll have a discussion as to how we'll conclude after everyone's spoken. Councillor Bounds.
Thank you, Chair. Just really to say, I think it's absolutely brilliant. I think it's a fantastic plan and application, and it's going to offer a whole new opportunity for learning for many residents and for people to come into Crawley as well. I think something that's been slightly overlooked this evening is it's also hopefully will be quite a boost to the town centre. 600 more students in the town. They're going to have lunch breaks. They're going to have free periods, and they're across the other side from the town. They can wander in, go for lunch, and it should hopefully bring a boost to that as well. So I think that's worth remembering. I was slightly concerned about the parking, but I think what's worth thinking about on that is that we've got 2 council-owned secure car parks. Kingsgate car park's got nearly 400 parking spaces if they're needed, for a fee of £2.50 a day. So I think that would alleviate a lot of my concerns. People will need to drive. There will be people coming from areas where they can't commute, so there does need to be parking available. Many of the surrounding roads are already covered by parking restrictions, so I've got no concerns about parking within the local area. I think there's a good opportunity, probably not tonight, but in future, for the council to look possibly at a partnership with Crawley Council regarding the use of the car parks. If they could offer something maybe discounted towards students, and the parking in the car parks if it's required. If that's something that could be offered, that's going to benefit both the council and the college, I think.
Thank you. Any other contributors I wish to come in? Councillor Alley.
Thank you, Chair. And before I speak, I think I need to update my interest that I'm a member of West Sussex County Council as well, because it's been being discussed here, and I might mention that one as well. I think the application, we need to make a decision on the application which is in front of us tonight. We cannot go back and impose a condition, something already been in front of committee and decided. I don't think it's legally possible or even a fair to do so. On the other hand, that I did had some residents and fellow councillor, I had some reservations about issues with the trees and parking, but I think we need to look on a bigger picture. The trees issue, the big oak tree issue has been addressed, and the other little ash tree is going to be replaced at some point, it says in 5.34. It's not, in my opinion, it's not for us to sit here and make a decision on the road network, because we don't have anybody from West Sussex here to give us a guidance, and I think we shouldn't put some extra burden on college, and especially when we are being told that we're not even in a position to, officers are not in a position to advise us whether we can ask the college or not. And it's end of the day, it's a technology institute, it's an educational institution, it's not a big private limited company. So anything we're going to put burden on them, subsequently going to be passed on to taxpayers or to students and people over there. So I wouldn't support any such suggestion asking college for any further contribution. There is no doubt the improvements needed over there, but I think once this application is through, perhaps college can work, we as a council can work with colleagues in West Sussex, and they can obtain some funding, we can maybe match something, but I think college shouldn't be asked for more money, and I won't be supporting any such suggestion tonight. Thank you.
Councillor Mullins. I'll come to Councillor Nawaz after Councillor Mullins.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to welcome this development, because I think it really enhances the offer that Crawley College can give out, and enhances what the offer is within the town, something we've been looking for quite a long time. As you said, bringing in some university stuff is really beneficial for the town. Obviously, like everyone else, my concern is a bit about the parking. What I'd like to know at the moment is, what is the catchment area for the college? I mean, obviously getting into the college is very easy if you live within the boundaries of Crawley, and we have a pretty good bus service and we have a train station, but people, where else are they coming from to actually access Crawley College, and where are they likely to come from in the future? How many students drive in at the moment? I'd like to know if we know how many students actually actively drive there. I'm sure many students couldn't possibly afford a car or the insurance for a car at the moment, but there must be some who do and can, those obviously who have mobility issues. And also, has it been considered about having a drop-off point? Because I'm quite sure that there's still a lot of parents who bring their young people into the college every day and pick them up every day, maybe because of transport problems. And therefore, is there, like we have sometimes at schools, a drop-off area where you can just drop and run? Thank you. Oh, that was the other thing. And has there been any consultation with the students themselves and maybe the student union as to how they feel about these changes, which will affect people who maybe have had the habit of coming in by car?
Councillor Mullins, can I get you to turn your microphone off, otherwise it diverts the cameras.
Thank you. I don't know the catchment answer, but I do know, for example, that students come in from Horsham. I don't know how far afield, but yes, there will be students that will need to drive in. So the catchment definitely isn't just Crawley. So it is going to be wider afield. I don't know how many students currently park on site, but I know that they are allowed to. So I think it would be, if they turn up and there's a space, they can park there. So all the spaces are available for staff and students, and I would imagine first come, first serve, although I don't know for 100%. In terms of drop-offs, West Sussex highways generally discourage drop-offs because it actually encourages more vehicles. So people will get lifts where they wouldn't ordinarily because somebody can just drop them off somewhere, and actually they are discouraged primarily more than encouraged. And I know that consultations were undergone with Crawley College when the plans were being developed, but I don't know at what level the students were involved in the discussions.
Councillor Nawaz.
Thank you, Chair. I'll change the subject and bring it to the different thing. I think we've not talked about transport side of things. Water neutrality is one of our favourite subjects every time we talk about any planning application. I know this is a new site and it's been built on the existing car park. And if I understand correctly in the introduction and also 5.52, I think it says, we haven't received any comment from the Natural England yet. So how come we let it go ahead without their consultation, without they confirming that? Because I thought on all other applications, we're definitely asking them to comment first, and then we come with it.
Councillor Nawaz, we're delegating the ability to approve to the Head of Economy and Planning. That permission would not be granted without the relevant plans in place.
I did read that, and I think I did understand that, but at the same time, I think from the consistency side of things, I'm trying to ask, is that everywhere? Because I think some of the application in the past, we discussed in this committee, we took it to we'd be waiting for the comment from them. That's why I'm asking, what is the consistency has been applied to all? In this application, I read that, hence my question.
I'll answer that question. We have previously brought various recommendations, sometimes asking you to delegate authority to us to work with Natural England and get to the agreement. In an ideal world, we bring applications once we've already done that, and some of the applications that come before you, we do get to that stage before they're approved. Unfortunately, in this case, and actually on the other item on the agenda as well, we haven't quite got to the stage where we can send them. Oh no, sorry, this one is with Natural England now. Linac House is not quite yet, but that's because of kind of last minute kind of finalising points. We then usually have a process where we go to Water Environment, our consultants, and then we go to Natural England, and that does take some time. So I think on both applications tonight, we're confident they can get to water neutrality, but we're just ironing out the final few issues, and then we'll be, in the case of this one, already liaising with Natural England to hopefully get it signed off. So often it's just a timescale issue when they come to you. We try to get them to you as quickly as possible, but sometimes it means water neutrality, because it takes a while to deal with, isn't quite resolved, and that is the case here.
Thank you. And I totally get that. I think that's probably to speed up things, and I do understand how water neutrality stress on obviously both sides, us as planning authority and also the applicants. But what I just wanted to confirm, that will be consistently applied on other applications, because if we can use that authority and this kind of method, will that be used for other applications as well? It's like we have in the past. We have pushed them away because of that. It's not, but that's why my question is on both applications. And I'm personally got surprised with that. And I think that's the right approach. I'm not against it if you can resolve it, because tomorrow Natural England comes in and they're not agreeing, whole plan can stop. And it can take more than, obviously they have a limited time to develop, but now we have taken a different route, and consistency side, that should be applied evenly to all applicants as well.
Councillor Yasmin Khan. I'm calling you because you haven't yet spoken in the debate. I will call Councillor Kieran Khan afterwards.
Thank you. I'm really excited about the universities. So my question was about the universities. What level of education will they get? Will they achieve level 4, I think you mentioned, or will they get degrees as well? So I think we said about 3. We said about 3 universities, didn't we? So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Unfortunately, the speakers can't respond. We can only talk with our officers and with ourselves. Sorry.
So I don't know. Do we have any?
I don't know, I'm sorry. I don't know the answer to that question.
Councillor Kieran Khan.
Yeah, I was actually going to touch on the lines of Councillor Yasmin's question because university is one of my favourite aspects of this new offering as well. I've long to believe that Crawley does have the capability to offer university courses, but my question would have been, if it was able to be answered, would have been about the accreditation of some of the newer courses that were able to be offered, like which universities.
Excuse me, Councillor Kieran Khan. Can we keep it more on topic as to the planning considerations? We are coming some distance from the planning considerations.
That's fine.
Okay, I've just got a couple of points myself to make. One that struck me with horror was the move at the cafe to an entirely disposable catering option. It's not going to block me from supporting this application, but if you're looking after one environmental thing, to just completely go down the wrong direction in dealing with it, and I hope it's not something we can include in the planning, but I hope the college can consider making that as green as they possibly can. But the other thing with the to help guide committee members is that we have to make decisions based on the current local plan and give weight to any emerging local plan, and therefore we do have to consider what is in our emerging local plan, given that it's in an advanced stage and that active travel is a key component of it. I don't think we need any resolution from this committee to force the head of economy and planning's hand on the issue, but I'd like him to consider our comments when having negotiations with the college, if that would be agreed by members present. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, Mr. Chair, is that a caveat to the planning application?
Not as a spoken thing, but given that we are granting the head of economy and planning the permission to permit or refuse this application, if he has in his mind the views of this committee, I'm sure he will do what he can to support active travel in his negotiations and discussions with them. Is there any further comment from the committee? Okay, all members of the committee, all members have had the opportunity to speak, so we'll move on to the vote. The recommendation is to delegate the decision to permit to the head of economy and planning, subject to the details set out in the report and the additional conditions that have been explained to us today. Is there someone to move the recommendation? Councillor Ali, and seconded by Councillor Kieran Khan. Can I have a show of hands for all those for the recommendation? And that is unanimous. Thank you very much. Application CR 2023-0734 FUL, Crawley College, College Road, 3 Bridges, has been delegated to the head of economy and planning subject to the conditions noted. Moving on to agenda item 6. Sorry, it's all written on a script for me, so I don't forget to say the things I have to say. It's, we're now at agenda item 6, CR 2022-0609 FUL, which is Linac House and Adjoining Land, Fleming Way, Northgate. Can I ask the officer to introduce the report?
Thank you, Chair. Just before I start, there's a couple of relatively minor changes to the recommendation on this report as well. The first, unsurprisingly perhaps, is on water neutrality, and what officers would like to amend the recommendation is to request delegated authority to potentially delete condition 4. Condition 4 restricts the hours of operation of Unit 1. And we would also like to have delegated authority to potentially amend the documents referred to in condition 32, which is the water neutrality implementation condition. Now, the reason for that is because the applicant is seeking to demonstrate that if Unit 1 operated on a 24-hour per day basis, it would still be water neutral. So we're working with them to try and get to that stage. They are submitting further information on that, and it will in due course need to be agreed with Natural England. But assuming that 24-hour operation was shown to be water neutral, there would be no need for condition 4. So we don't know the answer yet, but we would like delegated authority to potentially delete that condition. And then the other thing is on the plans list, there are actually a few drawings that need to be deleted from that list. They're on page 34 of the report, and it's the drawing label CBC 0001, site sections as proposed and typical site sections as proposed. Those drawings have all been superseded or updated. We're also proposing to remove the 4 3D view drawings from the list of drawings to be approved, because although they're helpful to illustrate the scheme, they're not kind of scaled elevations or anything. So there's a few drawings there we're just proposing to delete from the list. So turning to the proposal itself, sorry, I've just jumped forward too far there. So the Linac house site is occupied by Electa. It contains a vacant 5-storey office block, which you can see on the left-hand side of the screen. You can see it in all 3 photos, but the left-hand side of the screen. And there are 4 other buildings on the site that are used for research, development and manufacturing by Electa. The grey building at the centre of the screen is also part of the site. And then you can see in the centre there the new Electa office building, which is on the roundabout at the end of Fleming Way. So that is now occupied by them. It lies to the west of the application site. To the east, you can see on the left-hand side of the screen the Premier Inn, that lies immediately to the east of the site, and the Tarlis site lies to the south. The whole site is obviously within the Manor Royal estate, and it fronts onto Fleming Way, which is where most of these photos are taken from. So in terms of the application itself, that's the location plan, so you can see the site outlined in red at the centre of that drawing, and you can see the 4 buildings that are around it. So you've got the office building here, and then lower level buildings to the west and the south. The Premier Inn is just here to the right on the drawing, and Electa's new office building is this cornerstone building on the side here. That's just a more detailed drawing showing the existing buildings. So in terms of the proposal, if it was approved, would be implemented in 2 phases. And I think that's primarily to allow Electa, who still occupy research and manufacturing space within the site, to develop replacement within the site before they then demolish the other buildings. So phase 1 would be to construct Unit 1, which is this building here. And you would retain the access from Fleming Way at the north-eastern corner of the site. You'd then go into a parking area to the front of that new building, and the servicing access down the side, and to a parking and service area to the rear. So that would be phase 1. Once that building was completed and occupied by Electa, it then frees up the other buildings to be demolished. And this next drawing is the it's the final site layout. So it shows two. So this is Unit 1, which would be developed first. Unit 2 is this building here, and then Unit 3 to the south. So Unit 1 would be used by Elector for B2, which is the kind of general industrial research, development, manufacturing uses. The other two buildings would be warehouse buildings for B8 use. They're both speculative, so they wouldn't be occupied by Elector, but would be available for other businesses. Sorry, just to go back on that slide. So car parking, as you can see for the finished scheme, would continue across the front of the site for car parking for employees. Servicing would continue down here. So Unit 1, as I said, would be served in Phase 1, but then that road would continue to serve both parking areas and HGV servicing areas for the two new units. So the units they have quite a lot of similarities really. Obviously you have a large amount of floor space that is available for either the warehousing or the general industrial uses, but the buildings also have some ancillary office accommodation, which you can see in these smaller areas here, in this case over 3 floors for Unit 1. And the other two, I'll show you Unit 2. Unit 3 is similar really, but you can see again some ancillary office floor space within a large warehouse building with the service access visible at the bottom right hand corner. Turning to the elevations, so these are the elevations for Units 1 and 2. So at the top you have the north elevation. So you've got Unit 1 on the left hand side, that's the one that would be occupied by Elector, and then the warehouse building to the right would be Unit 2. So you can see there a kind of block of the office floor space with fenestration, and I can show you in a bit more detail the way that would be treated. But fairly sizable buildings. There's a kind of parapet here that would screen part of the roof. And then you can see to the south both buildings there with their servicing access doors and some glazing and detailing wrapping around the corner as well. And these are the elevations for Unit 3, which follows a similar line in terms of design treatment, but again quite a large warehouse building, so they typically do have a fair amount of kind of blank frontage. But the office building would enliven that slightly. And then moving on to landscaping. So the scheme broadly follows the Manor Royal Design Guide, which is quite specific about how landscaping should be laid out and how sites should be laid out. So it's requiring certain distances for the buildings to be set back from the frontage. A line of trees in this location, hornbeam trees along the site frontage, and then some sort of softer landscaping and wrapping around here into a kind of area that employees could use, but also featuring some wildflower planting and lower level landscaping. And then there are smaller elements of landscaping within the site, such as in this area here. And there is a row of trees along the boundary to the east, which you can see on that drawing. They're actually outside the site, but the intention would be to make sure they are protected whilst the hard landscaping around them is implemented. And then a couple of street scene views. So you can see the image there, you can see the existing office building at the top. That would be redeveloped in Phase 1, and that's an image of the proposed building. The scheme has been amended since it was submitted, so officers and our urban designer have worked closely with the applicant to secure improvements. So the kind of detailing that you see the colours and the banding around the windows and the improved glazing and the screening of a kind of shallow pitched roof and the formation of a parapet, all that kind of detailing has evolved as the application has progressed. So I think we feel the buildings look a lot better now and are much more fitting to that part of Fleming Way than as they originally came in. And this is a view from the other side. So you can see the current Elector office building here, Cornerstone House, the lower level industrial building here. So in phase 2 that would be replaced, and that's the building that you can see there, which obviously matches in with the kind of treatment and cladding and things of the Unit 1. It is set back, so there's a bit of stagger to the elevation to add a bit of interest and obviously helps with the landscaping to the front. So that is the proposed development. Now in terms of the principle, as you've seen from the report, obviously the site lies within the Manor Royal main employment area. There would be some loss of floor space of around 4,200 square metres, but this is part of a wider redevelopment by Elector. They've obviously recently built, or fairly recently built, Cornerstone House and moved into that. Linac House, the office building on this site, is vacant and has been for some time. So the redevelopment creates uses that are supported within the Manor Royal area. It supports Elector's rationalisation of their site and modernisation of their floor space, and it also creates 2 new warehouses. So we do feel it complies with both adopted and emerging economic policies in the local plan. The design and layout I think I've covered in the presentation really. We do think it's well articulated now. It adds some visual interest to the site and it sits quite comfortably between 2 taller buildings. The Premier Inn and Cornerstone House are both taller buildings, but the buildings have been given increased height, and with the parapet I think given a bit more dominance within the street scene. So we think design wise that they are acceptable additions. In terms of amenity, the main sort of sensitive use nearby is the hotel, but that is around 43 metres from the side wall. So that's the hotel building there. It's about 43 metres from the far side wall of Unit 1, and we think that's a sufficient distance to avoid any adverse impact upon hotel guests. In terms of parking, as you've seen from the report, West Sussex are happy with the layout and with the proposals. They don't feel that either in HGV terms or more general vehicle traffic that the site would cause problems to the surrounding network. The parking, in parking terms, you've got figures on page 48 setting out the numbers of spaces available, and you'll see that it fully meets the council's parking standards except in one respect. Now that is in relation to lorry parking for Unit 1. The reason for that is that that building is proposed to be used by Elector. They know what their requirements are. In fact, they're already operating the use from the site. So they know that they don't need the level of lorry parking that our standards would normally require for a building of this size. So we think that's perfectly reasonable and it's a well-justified argument. Cycle parking exceeds the standards, and again, this is an application where we'll be looking for a travel plan and encouragements for employees to use sustainable transport, and that would be addressed through the 106. In sustainability terms, the proposal is considered acceptable. Now, in terms of water neutrality, I mentioned this at the start. The applicant's original water neutrality statement assessed the usage of Unit 1, the Elector unit, on the basis of operation over 10 hours per day for 253 days per year, which is the normal normal number of working days. That was done for both existing and proposed use. What has happened since the report was published, and particularly in relation to condition 4, is that the applicant is now stating that the existing research and manufacturing use does take place over 24 hours per day. That the proposed use within Unit 1 would also do that. So they have now submitted a revised water neutrality statement, and that takes account of the increased water use associated with both existing and proposed operations over a 24-hour period. That report is currently being assessed by Water Environment, our consultants, and assuming they're happy that it demonstrates water neutrality, we will then obviously pass that through to Natural England as part of the appropriate assessment and seek their views. If that's all fine, then as I said, we'd be seeking authority to delete condition 4 on the hours of operation, because that's only been applied to secure water neutrality, and to amend the documents in condition 32 to refer to the updated water neutrality measures. But that is dependent on a satisfactory conclusion. We think it will probably be fine. In water neutrality terms, for the original report, there was quite a lot of headroom. It was quite comfortably water neutral, so we think it will probably be okay, but we just need to work through that process and consult with Natural England. And then the other issues of noise, air quality, contamination, flood risk and aviation safety are all set out in the report. So the recommendation is to approve, subject to the Section 106 to secure the highways access works, travel plan and monitoring fee, and employment and skills plan and air quality mitigation, to the amendments I've mentioned in terms of the conditions and the drawings to be approved, and then to the other conditions set out in the report.
That's not what our paperwork says. It says delegate the decision to...
Sorry, you're right. Delegate, yes, sorry. The water neutrality bit. So yes, delegate to us once that's resolved.
Okay, we have 2 speakers registered in regard to this item. Will Rory Joyce please come to the microphone? You'll find a button on the microphone which turns the green light on, and you will have 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to start by thanking your planning officers and design officers for working with us over the last 19 months on the proposed use, continued use and improvement of this commercial site within Manor Royal, a main employment area in the heart of the Gatwick Diamond. It will enhance the core economic function, support the continued economic growth of both Manor Royal and of Crawley. Working with your officers has brought us to a position today where they conclude that this regeneration scheme accords with your planning policy, and they can support a recommendation that planning permission be granted. As you've seen, the proposals for the phased redevelopment of the site to ensure that all 3 of the new buildings are comprehensively planned, so each phase will be able to operate successfully within the overall site. The first phase is for the demolition and redevelopment of the vacant Linac house. It's vacant, last used in March 2018, before Elector relocated into the adjoining Cornerstone site. It has been specifically designed to meet Elector's urgent need to further improve their operation here in Crawley. It will be used for world-leading research and development and state-of-the-art manufacturing. The second phase is for the building at the rear of the site, which will be vacated by Elector when they move into the Phase 1 building, and that will provide a new building for storage and distribution use. And the final phase will be the existing building between Linac House and Cornerstone, which will also be a new building for storage and distribution use. The existing access from Fleming Way will be widened and improved, and there'll be enhanced landscaping setting with biodiversity net gain, a BREEAM excellent rating, and it will be comfortably water neutral. There have been no objections, but letters of support from the Manor Royal Business Investment District, from Gatwick Diamond Business, and of course from Elector. We ask that you support this application this evening. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have one more speaker. Could Dee Mathieson please come to the microphone? As I've said several times today, if you press the button on the microphone, it will turn green and you have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, everyone. I'm Dee Mathieson. I'm Managing Director of Elector in the UK and responsible for this site. Elector design, manufacture and sell world-leading technology for the treatment of cancer. And we're committed as a company to ensuring that every patient, wherever they are in the world, gets access to the best technology and the best care. The Crawley campus that we've been discussing is the largest Elector site in the world. and the flagship for Linear Accelerator Technology, which was the derivative Linac House, which is the name of the building that we're now wishing to change. Linear accelerator technology is a key element within the treatment systems that we design, manufacture and sell globally. We're the only European-based company dedicated to radiation therapy treatment, machine development and distribution, and we want to stay in the UK despite the challenges that we've faced with Brexit and the cost of doing business here. We employ more than 850 people in Electa Limited, the legal entity I'm responsible for in the UK, and at least 4 times as many of those in our supply chain. So we're a very big local employment opportunity for so many local people. Today, there are some 7,000 treatment systems, Electa treatment systems, across the world, saving lives every day, which is something we're all very proud of as a company. We've been on the Crawley site for more than 60 years. We were previously on the Tally site as MEL and then Philips, and then acquired by Electa in 1998. And we've invested a lot of money and time into the campus, as you've seen, if you've managed to visit us. If you haven't, please do. And we attract top talent in electrical, mechanical engineering, software development and design, and physics, and also clinical. Our research and design teams have created a number of patented innovations over the years to set the standard of care for radiation therapy and given hope to millions of patients and their families across the world. Our manufacturing team in the current building have increased output from the factory tenfold over the last 35 years using modern methods, and we really have developed that along with our supply chain and delivery partners. This planning application is absolutely key to us in the UK to continue manufacturing, designing, researching, and doing a better job with cancer treatment technology in Crawley rather than the option of having to move overseas. And the old building, Linac House, is just simply at the end of its useful life, and despite best efforts, we couldn't get any interest in letting it in its current form. So in summary, this development represents a very large investment for our corporate company based in Stockholm. There's 4,500 people worldwide work in Crawley, in Electa, but as I've said, 850 of those are in the UK, and we want to stay. So we're 100% aligned with our landlord in trying to seek your permission to make this application. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, we will now move on to the debate. Committee members wishing to speak should raise their hand. The officer will respond to queries one by one. Councillor Chariton.
Yes. Completely in support of this application. I see no reason why we should object. It's a valuable business for Crawley. It brings much to the area and hopefully future employment for the people leaving the college, for the new technology college that we'll be building. I do have a couple of little things that I wanted to raise though. Firstly, and I'm just asking because I'd feel remiss if I didn't ask, but the issue of lorries, and I hear what you're saying about the current capacity and the requirements and so on. The business knows its business and is comfortable with the level of parking for lorries. I'm just thinking, the outside chance that you decide to move somewhere else, what happens then? What happens with the lorry capacity then, sometime in the future? It's not beyond, the realms of possibility. And I'm wondering if I'm just asking the question whether it may be a little short-sighted to say it's fine as we are, even though it doesn't quite meet the council's standards. So I'm just interested to hear what the officers would have to say about that. The other thing is, and this really probably fits more in a broader strategy, which is again the whole issue of sustainability. We talked a lot about that in the college application. I don't see a lot of discussion about that. Now I know it's different circumstances. I know Manor Royal, it's a long way, and particularly where the site is currently is a long way from train stations. But it would be good if I don't know. Again, I don't know where it fits in the local plan. I can't remember off the top of my head, but what can be done to encourage? I mean, what is being done within the site currently to encourage some sustainable transport and a move away from not necessarily car transport per se, but petrol cars, if you want, polluting vehicles. I did notice there were a fair number of electric vehicles there, which is good for the employees doing that there. But it's things like provision of on-site charging, for example, and if that was considered anywhere, whether that is something, even if we can't sort of, make it as part of a provision of the planning, is whether that could be encouraged, but also, sustainable access to it, bicycling, walkways and stuff like that. What could, as I say, it's unfair to put this onto one company, but where does that fit within? What does Crawley bid, for example? Where does that fit into this if anything? Slightly waffly. What I'm getting at is the sustainability aspect of this plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, the two questions. I think the first one, I think it's a fair point on the lorry parking. There, I guess, is a kind of balance to be struck. We're fairly certain that Elector are going to occupy this building and hopefully will continue to occupy it. So I think it's perfectly reasonable that they put forward an argument based on their needs rather than our standards, which are a more general need. But I totally take your point too, that they could move out and someone else move in. The fact is, though, that anyone else moving into that building will know what spaces are available and what servicing provision there is for lorry parking, and presumably if they need an additional number of lorry spaces, then the site is unlikely to be suitable for them. So I think a future occupier would know what they were getting. I think it's always a difficult one, this, because when someone gives us a specific argument, we can see the reason behind that, but you're quite right, the future is a bit less certain. But I think in this seems to me one of the more certain ones that we've had of this type, where they've made specific parking justification, and we and West Sussex have accepted that. So I do think that's reasonable. In terms of sustainable transport, I mean, they are doing quite a lot. The parking, the cycle parking provided exceeds the standards. There are a number of EV car charging spaces to be provided. And all car parking spaces will have the ducting installed to allow them to be upgraded to EV charging in the future. The site is relatively well, I mean, Manor Royal generally is quite well located, for instance, for cycle paths and for footpaths linking back into the town centre. And the recommendation does include, obviously, the travel plan as well. So I think there's a sort of combination of measures there that hopefully will encourage Elector to keep pushing their staff to travel more sustainably and hopefully more actively as well.
Councillor Magali.
Oh, thank you for that. My queries about units 2 and 3, they are speculative and would be subsequently implemented and occupied by other businesses. What other businesses? Are these units part of this application, and the fact that we've not seen what they'll look like, or will they be coming back for a planning application? Thank you.
Yes, we do know what they will look like. So they are units 2 and 3, which I showed you in the presentation. So they are that unit there and that unit there. But you're quite right, they are speculative, so we don't know who would occupy them. They would be for B8 storage and distribution use, so warehouse buildings, but we don't know who the actual company that would occupy them would be. But we do know what they would look like, so they're as I showed you in the presentation. So, for instance,
just while you're looking, Councillor Chariton, can you turn your mic on and off again? The cameras have locked onto you. But if you
turn it off and on.
Just put your mic off.
Off, on, rather. Yeah.
That's better. It's released the camera now.
So the drawing at the top there, the top two buildings, the one on the left-hand side is Unit 1, so that's the building that would be occupied by Elector for their research and development and manufacturing side. The building on the right-hand side there is Unit 2, and that would be one of the speculative warehouses. So we do know, we have full details of what they would look like, we just don't know who the actual business occupying them would be.
Councillor Mullins.
Thank you. First of all, I welcome this development, and it's really heartening to hear that such an important company wants to not only stay in Crawley, but develop and make more of being in Crawley. So, and it attracts. We always talk about Crawley being so reliant on the airport, and it's just wonderful that we have such excellent businesses actually on Manor Royal that don't just rely on the airport, that are for other things too. So I think it's really exciting. My concern also is what's going to happen with the other two warehouses. Obviously, Electra know exactly what they want to do with the building they're going to construct, because they know what their needs are, they know what their parking needs are, they know how it's going to operate for 24 hours a day. But we don't know what's going to happen with the other two buildings because we don't know what businesses are coming in. So I'm just a little bit concerned, is there enough access and is there enough parking to make them attractive to other businesses that may want to use them for storage and distribution? Because I mean, that usually means quite a lot of movements of HGVs. So just want to be sure that there is enough space there, because I don't want to end up as two white elephants that can't be rented out because the facilities are not quite good enough. The other thing is also the Premier Inn is right next door. I know it's a hotel and it is on an industrial estate, so it tends to be cheaper. I know that because I actually booked a room there today, and it does tend to be cheaper than the other Premier Inns in town because of where it is. But I did look down the list of consultees and neighbours, and there doesn't seem to be any direct negotiation with the hotel at all, just to ask if they can see any problem with the development. I mean, I'm sure there isn't, because Premier Inn you can't open windows, so there won't be a noise problem. But it's also, again, about access and parking.
Can you turn your mic back off?
Yeah, so on the parking issue, for units 2 and 3, both those units fully meet the parking standards, both in terms of car and sort of small vehicle parking, but also lorry and HGV parking. So they do all that we ask them for through our parking standards. We don't know the occupier, so the occupier would need to look at the scheme and see that it met their needs before they took the building. It's not impossible. We might get further applications if a potential tenant does come forward and wants to adjust something about the building or the parking layout or anything else, but we would deal with that application as and when that happened. Yeah, you're quite right. The Premier Inn is the most sensitive use nearby. In noise terms, environmental health are happy that it would not be adversely affected. Obviously, hotels are slightly less sensitive than residential because people are only staying in them for a relatively short amount of time. But we do need to make sure that their stay is still comfortable and they can get a decent night's sleep. But environmental health seem happy on all fronts that the relationship between the proposal and the hotel is acceptable. They haven't commented on the application. Obviously, I don't know the reason for that, but we think the relationship is satisfactory, and actually that the building is far enough away. And as you say, the windows are unlikely to open anyway, so they're probably fine.
I'm just going to come in here on the point that Councillor Chariton has made. I'm sure all applicants that own the sites they're developing are going to give an example of what they wish to use the site for, where our our local plan is designed so we don't set future traps, and therefore if I own a property and I know what I'm going to use it for, I'm going to come to you with the argument that actually I don't need these spaces because this is my thing, and this could apply to nearly all of our applicants. Having said that, this is an incredibly good application. The two presentations we received from the people speaking in support have been very good, and I have no problem with the thing, but I think we'd be careful not to slide down a slippery slope saying actually the applicant wants it, so we'll let it go against our local plan, because that should not be happening. And I'm quite concerned about that direction. But otherwise, I'm generally in support.
Just to come back on that, I think we've had quite a number of applications on Manor Royal in recent years where we have pushed developers either by restricting the uses that a building can be put to because they didn't meet the parking standards and they didn't know who the occupier was. One of them is the building north of, not far from here, actually northwest of here, north of Astral Towers, the building there, they wanted quite a wide-ranging number of uses, B1, B2 and B8, I think. And because the level of parking was so constrained, we had to restrict the uses because there wasn't sufficient parking there. I think this is a different case. I think they've made a very genuine, or what appears to be a very genuine and site-specific and company-specific case, and I think we need to take that on its merits, really. We don't know what the future holds, but they have made a very convincing argument for this scheme.
Do any of my colleagues wish to make any further contributions? Councillor Nawaz.
Thank you, Chair. I welcome this development, and I couldn't agree more with Councillor Mallins over here. It's good to see we having a high-quality industrial units being developed in Manor Royal. Manor Royal recently attracted a lot of distribution and storage developers to develop those kind of facilities. This is quite fresh, and I think bringing high-quality and high-skilled jobs into Crawley, which is really good. Obviously, one question I have on reservation from the future point of view on water neutrality subject again. This building was not been in use from 2017, or 2018, I think. And obviously, water neutrality statement. There are 3 in there, and all of them saying the water will go down, but is water not been used? So is that there's no risk in the future from anything which put this development onto the risk?
No, that's a good point, actually. So the office building is disused, but the other buildings on the site are in use, and that's where the existing water use is generated from. It's from the 24-hour operation of those buildings. So yes, that is taken into account, but you're quite right, where we have long-term vacant space, that's not usually taken into account in establishing the existing water use. But this site's a bit odd because some of the buildings are still occupied while Linac House is not occupied.
Okay, all committee members have had the opportunity to speak, so we'll move on to the vote. The recommendation is to delegate the decision to permits to the Head of Economy and Planning, subject to the details set out in the report and the amendments that have been verbally told to you today. Is there someone to move the recommendation? Councillor Nawaz and Councillor Bounds to second. Can I ask for a show of hands, all those for the recommendation? And that's unanimous. Okay, as this is the last planning committee of the municipal year, I've just got a couple of words to say at the end. Planning committee has worked very well in the past year with all members contributing to the debates. In fact, everyone has spoken this evening. It's a fine example of councillors from both political parties working together towards a common goal, and it's to be credited. I'd like to thank a few people. Obviously the members of this committee, the officers of the planning department, for the work they put in to ensure that we've got the information that we need in a concise fashion. Jess Tampling, our normal democratic services officer, who gives me a lot of support and help and supports the committee. Suraj Chowdhury, our monitoring officer and chief legal advisor, who gives us advice every now and then, which we summarily ignore most of the time. But the facilities team that let you into the building and let you out and look after us, squirreling away behind the scenes that we don't tend to see, but they work really hard. And also Heather for stepping in today because of the unavailability of Jess, our normal officer. 6 of our committee members are reaching the ends of their term on the council. 3 of them, Councillor Bounds, Councillor Morris and Councillor Ali, are not standing for re-election, so I'd like to thank them for their service to this committee and to this council, and I wish them well in their future endeavours. Well, with Councillor Ali, all bar one of your future endeavours. Councillor Mullins, Councillor Nawaz and Councillor Kieran Khan are standing for election again to remain on the council, and I wish you good luck. There being no further business, no supplemental agenda, so the business of the committee is concluded at 21:08. Thank you for coming.